The room crackles before the words even land. Cameras hum like anxious insects. Lights bleed heat onto faces that barely move. Trump's voice slices through the static, swollen with certainty. "You're lying, Jasmine." His finger points like a verdict. Reporters freeze mid-note. The sound engineer's hand hesitates above the dial. For a heartbeat, silence stretches thin enough to tear. Jasmine Crockett doesn't blink. Her stillness is its own defiance. The screen captures her eyes, steady, almost bored, as if she's seen this theater before. The narrator's voice glides in, low and measured. What you're about to see is not theater. It's a test of the nation's soul. The words hang like smoke. Viewers lean closer, drawn into a storm they didn't know was already breaking. Trump leans back, smirking for the cameras. The smirk isn't confidence, it's calculation. He's performed this scene 100 times before. Loud accusation, louder denial. A headline born in chaos. He thinks it'll work again. The lights flicker slightly. A cameraman adjusts focus, zooming closer on Crockett's face. No sweat, no twitch, no visible defense. Her calm is unnerving. The narrator continues, describing a moment where truth stands motionless while arrogance dances for applause. The air feels heavy with a secret everyone senses but can't yet maim. Trump chuckles under his breath, that familiar performative laugh meant to fill the void with dominance. The laugh dies halfway through. She still hasn't spoken. A ripple of discomfort rolls through the audience. The moderator clears his throat, unsure whether to intervene. Somewhere, in living rooms across the country, viewers grab their phones. Twitter notifications light up. The first clips are already being trimmed, captioned, shared. "Did she just let him hang himself on live TV?" one user types. The narrator reminds the audience that silence can be louder than any insult, that in a nation drowning in noise, restraint is rebellion. The shot widens. Trump shifts, trying to reassert control, voice rising again. "Go ahead, say something, tell the people your little story." But the people aren't waiting for her to speak. They're waiting for what comes after. They can feel it, pulsing beneath the surface. Something irreversible is about to break. But this accusation didn't appear out of nowhere. It was designed for spectacle. Before the words, "You're lying, Jasmine," echoed through that studio, the storm had already been gathering. It began days earlier, in the digital trenches where outrage never sleeps. Trump's team had released another statement, one more revision of history dressed up as bravado. He claimed he never signed the policy memo that tied his administration to the scandal now resurfacing. The media circled it like vultures scenting fresh decay. Every outlet flashed the same phrase, alleged forgery, as if repetition might erase the ink of his own signature. Online, the chorus split in two. Supporters swarmed to defend him, flooding comment sections with recycled slogans. But another current ran deeper, quieter, and angrier. The current of people tired of the spin, tired of watching power skate past truth. Screens across the country flickered with hashtags, each one a spark feeding the fire. Hashtag "show the receipts" trended overnight. People began tagging Jasmine Crockett, the congresswoman who had once told a reporter that truth isn't fragile, it's just buried under too much noise. Tell me, where are you watching from right now? Because tonight, you're part of this reckoning. The question pierces the fourth wall, turning viewers into witnesses. This is not a story unfolding somewhere else. It's happening here, on their screens, in real time, in the shared breath of anticipation before something righteous finally snaps. Clips of old press conferences play in flashes. Trump behind podiums, basking in chants, waving documents he rarely reads. The narrator's voice threads through the montage. He has built an empire on contradiction, and every contradiction demands a new denial. Each denial, a louder microphone. The rhythm is hypnotic, like a preacher selling absolution. But this time, the congregation is restless. Jasmine's name surfaces more frequently as journalists realize she's been gathering evidence for months. Quietly, methodically, she has traced the chain of paperwork, each signature leading back to the same pen, a pen with his name engraved in gold. The story spreads through group chats and news tickers. She's got something, a reporter whispers off-air, something solid. The night before the confrontation, networks scramble. The debate isn't supposed to be explosive, just another panel for soundbites and ratings. But viewers can feel the undercurrent. They tune in with popcorn and purpose, waiting for the unmasking. Someone tweets, "If anyone's gonna call him out, it'll be Crockett. She's the calm before the clapback." As the cameras set up that morning, the studio buzzes with unspoken prophecy. Producers exchange nervous glances. They know Trump thrives on chaos. Every insult, every raised eyebrow, another chance to steal focus. But there's a shift in the air, a quiet readiness. Crockett walks in wearing neutral tones, not armor, but balance. Her calm is its own form of defiance. The narrator returns, voice soft but firm. Power believes its own echo chamber. It thinks noise can rewrite truth. It mistakes volume for victory. That's why this moment matters, because sooner or later, the truth answers back, not with shouting, but with proof.
The crowd outside the studio grows larger, phones lifted, live streams running. The country watches a stage that feels more like a courtroom, a confessional, a battleground for something larger than politics. This isn't about left or right. It's about reality versus performance, evidence versus ego. The line between entertainment and accountability blurs until it disappears completely. And when the cameras rolled, he thought the noise would drown her out. Trump has always treated silence like an enemy. From the moment he steps onto a stage, he fills the air with himself, his voice, his gestures, his practiced smirk that tells the audience he's already won. The lights adore him, the cameras too. Every flash is a mirror reflecting the image he's built, the deal maker, the fighter, the man who never loses. In his world, the truth is whatever gets the loudest applause. His followers call it charisma. His critics call it manipulation. Either way, it works, at least until now. There's a rhythm to his dominance, a kind of performance art perfected over decades. He raises his chin slightly before he speaks, stretching words just long enough to sound certain, never questioning, never hesitant. The arrogance isn't an accessory, it's the armor. When he's cornered, he doesn't back down. He doubles the volume, shifts the blame, turns the accusation into spectacle. Cameras love it. Producers love it more. Every outburst becomes a headline, and every headline reminds him that chaos keeps him relevant. But arrogance, when repeated long enough, becomes ritual. And rituals dull the senses. The man who once studied every angle now believes his myth too completely. The gold frames around his office portraits, the marble floors, the endless microphones that lean toward him have built a cathedral of noise. In that echo chamber, contradiction isn't a problem, it's strategy. He signs a document on Tuesday, denies it on Friday, and by Monday, half the country forgets the original act ever happened. That document, the one at the center of this storm, bears his unmistakable scrawl. Reporters have compared it to a seismograph line, erratic and towering, impossible to forge. His aides tried to spin it. Maybe an assistant signed it. Maybe a photocopy. Maybe a deep fake. But somewhere in the timeline of his own words, he bragged about that very signature. "No one signs like me," he'd said during a rally, waving a Sharpie like a sword. You see that? That's history. Now, history is evidence. The narrator describes him not as a villain out of malice, but out of instinct, an apex predator who confuses applause for oxygen. He's convinced that people don't want truth, they want theater. That belief has carried him through bankruptcies, impeachments, and scandals. The performance always saves him. When a question threatens him, he ridicules the questioner. When cornered, he invents a new story. It's all muscle memory now, reflex, dressed as confidence.
On the morning of the panel, he arrives early, entourage orbiting him like moons around a star. He adjusts his tie twice, scans the cameras, greets the production staff by name, reminding them of their proximity to power. He jokes about ratings, leans in, tells them, "They'll watch because I'm here." He's not wrong. The ratings do spike when his name appears. But there's something different in the way people are watching this time. Less amusement, more anticipation. The nation has seen this act too many times. The spectacle is wearing thin. Still, he plays the part flawlessly. When the countdown to air begins, he straightens his shoulders, inhales deeply, and smiles into the lens. The confidence is total, unbroken. He doesn't believe anyone across from him could hold their ground, especially not a black congresswoman from Texas. He's used to others folding, flinching, trying to placate the bluster. He's certain she will, too. The narrator paints the image with slow precision. A man gilded by his own myth, surrounded by microphones and mirrors, mistaking reflection for validation. The world has grown used to his noise, so much that silence feels foreign. He thinks volume is power because it's always worked. He thinks posture equals truth because the cameras have never demanded proof. The arrogance hums like electricity under his skin. Old clips flash, him laughing off investigations, dismissing reporters, turning accusations into punchlines. He once said, "I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not lose support." The line became infamous, almost prophetic. But beneath the laughter, there's a tremor. Every empire built on noise forgets how to listen. Every showman eventually meets an audience that stopped clapping. As the narrator closes the portrait, the tone darkens. For years his noise drowned out the fragile hum of truth. But arrogance carries a flaw. It assumes silence means surrender. What he doesn't see, what he can't hear over the applause still ringing in his own head, is that silence can also mean preparation. Across from him sits someone who has studied the rhythm of his chaos, measured every note of his performance, and learned exactly when to strike. He forgot one thing.
Some people study the storm before they step into it. Jasmine Crockett's story doesn't begin in the spotlight. It begins in a courthouse hallway in Dallas, years before cameras cared to notice. She was a young defense attorney then, standing outside a courtroom that smelled of paper and fear, holding files twice her size. Inside, a client waited, poor, accused, forgotten. The prosecutor had called him a thug. Jasmine called him by his name. She lost that case, but not the lesson. The system didn't need her to shout to know she was dangerous. It needed her to stay silent so it could continue unchallenged. That day she realized silence, when chosen, not imposed, was a weapon sharper than outrage. The narrator's voice folds over her past like a spotlight moving through smoke. They called her ambitious, but what they meant was inconvenient. Every courtroom she entered became a mirror reflecting America's contradictions. A woman told to calm down while men shouted freely. A black professional mistaken for an assistant. A voice dismissed until it became unavoidable. She learned early how to make stillness feel like control. When others flailed to be heard, she waited, measured, calculated. By the time her turn came, her words cut through like glass through fabric, clean, precise, irreversible. The montage quickens. Late nights at her office, stacks of legal briefs, the sound of a clock ticking past midnight. She doesn't drink coffee, she drinks intent. She doesn't shout back at trolls online, she screenshots, files, remembers. Years later, when she entered politics, that same patience became her armor. Social media swarmed with hate the moment she was sworn in. Every insult had the same rhythm, too loud, too bold, too angry. She knew the subtext, too much truth for comfort. She learned to wear that as a badge, not a bruise. Her colleagues describe her as dangerously composed. In debates, she sits perfectly still until her opponent finishes. Her eyes never wander. When she finally speaks, her tone is deliberate, steady, a rhythm that forces others to slow down and listen. Once, during a particularly heated session, a senior lawmaker slammed his hand on the desk and shouted over her. She didn't raise her voice. She paused. The silence expanded like a held breath. When she spoke again, it was one sentence. Calm. Devastating. Impossible to refute. The chamber fell quiet. Even her critics admitted later that she didn't win the argument, she dismantled it. The narrator calls her composure a storm contained in grace. It's not the absence of fire, but the mastery of it. She knows what anger looks like on women like her. She knows how it's weaponized against them. So she learned to make her fury invisible and her focus unmissable. Every pause is intentional, every glance a calculation. She carries herself like someone who's memorized the anatomy of power and refuses to flinch in its presence. The camera lingers on her hands, steady even under pressure, on her eyes that rarely blink when confronted. She's seen worse than insults. She's faced the machinery of bias disguised as civility. She's been told to wait her turn by people who've never had to earn theirs. Her calm isn't naivety, it's muscle memory. We cut to her campaign trail. She's speaking in a community center under fluorescent lights that buzz with fatigue. Her voice, soft at first, builds with conviction. They want you to believe that power listens, she says. But power only hears what echoes its own voice. Our job isn't to be loud, it's to be unignorable.
The crowd rises, not because she shouts, but because she doesn't need to. She has that rare quality. When she speaks, noise stops out of respect, not fear. The narrator shifts tone, tracing the invisible threads between the courtroom, the Congress floor, and the studio where the confrontation awaits. It's not chance that brought her here. It's inevitability. For every insult she ignored, for every debate she outthought rather than outyelled, she's been rehearsing for this exact collision. Her quiet victories have prepared her for a loud opponent who doesn't understand restraint. In another flashback, she sits in her office reviewing documents, the very same ones that now anchor the scandal. Her staff watches her underline passages, cross-reference dates, highlight signatures. She doesn't rush. The rhythm of her pen on paper feels like the ticking of a countdown. When an aide suggests releasing the documents early, she shakes her head. Timing matters. Truth hits harder when arrogance is loudest.
The narrator returns, almost whispering now, like sharing a secret. She doesn't seek moments like this, but when they arrive, she treats them like trials. Evidence, argument, verdict. The same cycle, every time. What separates her from her rivals isn't ego, it's endurance. She doesn't perform for the camera. She waits until the camera can't look away. The day she walks into the studio, she carries no notes, no flash drives, no entourage. Just a folder, sealed and simple. Her steps are measured. Her expression unreadable. Technicians whisper that she looks too calm, as if calm itself is suspicious. But that's the thing about people who have learned to weaponize composure. They don't announce their readiness. They embody it. As she takes her seat across from Trump, the lights warm the edges of her face, making her appear carved from poise. He studies her, searching for weakness, mistaking patience for hesitation. She watches him back, the way a scholar observes a subject before the experiment begins. There's no fear in her eyes, only precision, the quiet knowledge of someone holding truth like a blade behind her back. The narrator's voice deepens, threading suspense through every heartbeat of the moment. She doesn't plan to win the argument. She plans to reveal it. And when she does, it won't be with volume. It'll be with evidence, the kind that doesn't yell, but still silences a room. That silence you're hearing? It's the calm before the collapse. The tension returns like a memory, half frozen in air. Trump's voice dominates the studio, the sound bouncing off glass and steel, thick with indignation. "You've been lying about me for months," he says, waving a stack of papers like a weapon. "You made it all up, every word." He jabs a finger toward Jasmine Crockett, each motion sharpened by decades of unchallenged habit. The microphones tremble beneath his volume, but the woman across from him sits perfectly still, breathing evenly, her hands folded as if in prayer. He leans forward. She doesn't move. He smirks. She blinks once. The audience shifts, restless. Reporters scribble notes, uncertain whether to capture the words or the posture. The camera lingers on her face, a still ocean beneath a storm. The silence between his sentences grows longer, as if daring her to break it, but she doesn't. Trump mistakes her calm for weakness, presses harder. "You and your people, you twist things, you invent fake signatures.
You're nothing but a fraud in a dress suit." He grins at his own insult, searching the room for approval that doesn't come. The narrator's voice slides through the static. The louder he gets, the smaller the room feels. His words fill every inch of space, but none of them land. Noise without weight, heat without light. Trump laughs again, that familiar rally laugh, part sneer, part applause cue. But the crowd doesn't follow. The only sound is the faint hum of a light overhead, flickering like a pulse. Crockett's gaze never leaves him. She looks not angry, not even offended, but patient, like someone waiting for a timer to finish counting down. He waves the papers again, slapping them against the table. "Here, these are the real documents. You think you're the only one who knows how to read?" His voice cracks at the edge, but he doesn't notice. He's too busy performing the part he's written for himself. The moderator starts to speak, then stops, realizing intervention would only feed the spectacle. The room is now an ecosystem of discomfort, every breath measured, every movement deliberate. The narrator's tone tightens. You can feel the air thickening, the kind of pressure that comes before truth arrives. Cameras flash. One reporter glances at another. They've seen this scene before, but never like this. Trump throws another insult. "You don't belong here, Jasmine. You're over your head." His voice cracks at the edge, but he doesn't notice. He's too busy performing the part he's written for himself. Crockett finally exhales, the smallest movement in the room, and somehow the loudest. Her eyes flick to the moderator, then back to him. She doesn't interrupt. She lets him keep talking, burning his own credibility one sentence at a time. The seconds stretch. His face reddens under the lights. Sweat glints on his temples. Still, he keeps talking about loyalty, fake news, witch hunts, betrayal. It's a greatest hits album of excuses. The audience looks less like believers now and more like witnesses. The noise that once powered him now betrays him, revealing its emptiness. The narrator whispers through the tension. "Watch her hands. They haven't moved. Not once." The stillness is strategy, the silence, choreography. He leans closer, misreading her calm as surrender. "You're not fooling anyone," he says, voice cracking under strain. She tilts her head slightly, a gesture so subtle it's almost imperceptible. He doesn't realize that the countdown has already begun. He laughs again, louder now, as if noise alone can reclaim control. "You got nothing, no proof, just attitude." The studio lights hum louder, the temperature of the room dropping in contrast to the heat of his tone. Reporters glance at each other. Even the cameramen sense it. The shift, the tremor in the performance. She still hasn't spoken. The pause grows unbearable. Every second she stays silent becomes its own kind of indictment. Trump's words start to stumble over themselves. You think you're smarter than me? You think you can trick the American people?" His confidence frays around the edges. The narrator's voice cuts through like a single match struck in darkness. Every performer eventually forgets the script. Every tyrant mistakes attention for respect. And every bully finds the moment when silence stops being fear and starts being judgment. Trump sits back, breathing hard, his paper shaking slightly in his hand. The cameras tighten their focus on her face. She finally looks down, opens her folder, and touches the edge of a document like a pianist preparing the first note of a requiem. The narrator breathes the words every viewer already feels. The countdown is nearly over. What happened next made even his allies look away. 6 seconds. That's how long the silence lasts. 6 seconds that stretch like a century under the glare of studio lights. The sound engineer later swore he could hear the hum of the ceiling vents in those seconds. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Trump shifts in his seat, smirks fading into confusion as Jasmine Crockett opens her folder with a slow, deliberate motion. Every move is measured, surgical. Her hand slides out a single sheet of paper, not a stack, not a binder, just one page. The camera zooms in. The edge of the paper catches the light. A blue ink signature glints like a confession written in arrogance. Trump's signature, unmistakable, sprawling, full of flourish. The very document he'd just sworn moments ago didn't exist. Crockett's fingers rest on the corner of the page. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. "Mr. Trump," she says evenly, "before you accuse anyone else of fabrication, I'd suggest you take a look at your own work." Her tone is calm, almost kind, the kind of calm that makes the ground tremble. He leans forward, squinting. "What is that supposed to be?" She tilts the paper slightly toward the cameras. "The document you just denied signing." The room doesn't move. The world doesn't move. It's as if reality itself has paused for verification. A heartbeat sound overlays the silence. Thump, thump, the narrator whispering through the rhythm. Truth doesn't shout. It simply arrives. Trump blinks rapidly, trying to summon his signature smirk, but the confidence doesn't stick this time. His fingers twitch near the microphone. That's fake. Somebody forged that. You people always—" Crockett cuts him off without raising a decibel. "That's an original file from your own campaign archives, time-stamped, digitally verified. We can display the metadata if you'd like." Her precision dismantles his bluster piece by piece. Every word she speaks is a quiet incision. She isn't arguing. She's performing an autopsy. The truth lies open on the table, signed in his own hand. Trump's denial begins to crack. His eyes dart to the moderator, to the crowd, then to the cameras, searching for rescue. The practiced rhythm of outrage stumbles. He leans back, mouth tightening. For the first time all evening, he looks small beneath the lights. The narrator cuts in, heartbeat still pulsing. Power isn't lost in a single blow. It unravels in silence, in the seconds after denial meets evidence. Crockett doesn't move in for the kill. She simply waits. Her stillness does the talking. The cameras drink in every flicker of expression, his jaw clenching, his throat tightening, his hand gripping the table edge. Every tick becomes theater, every breath a headline. The moderator clears his throat, but even that sound feels intrusive, like a cough in a cathedral. No one wants to interrupt history. Trump finally speaks, his voice cracking. "You think that proves anything? You're twisting it. That signature means nothing." Crockett leans forward just slightly, eyes locked on his. "Then why are your hands shaking, sir?"
The line cuts the air clean in half. Gasps ripple through the audience. Reporters freeze mid-scribble. A camera operator mouths, "Oh my God!" The silence afterward is electric, alive, the kind of silence that feeds the internet. The narrator's tone lowers to a cinematic whisper. There are moments when history doesn't announce itself. It just changes shape, right there in front of you. Trump stammers again, words collapsing under the weight of proof. This is all politics. You people— Crockett interrupts, voice steady. No, Mr. Trump, this isn't politics. This is paperwork. Laughter bursts in the crowd, half disbelief, half relief. Even the moderator can't suppress a faint smile. Cameras zoom closer, desperate to capture every angle, every micro-expression of defeat. The atmosphere has transformed. The balance of power has shifted in real time. She slides the paper closer to him, the sound of it whispering against the table like a verdict being sealed. You didn't just sign the lie, she says, voice low, precise, devastating. You lived it. And that's the detonation, the mic drop moment. The reaction is instant, visceral. Gasps turn into cheers. Reporters exchange wide-eyed looks as fingers race across keyboards. Phones light up. Hashtags are born mid-breath. Hashtag signed and exposed. Hashtag receipt day. Hashtag Crockett versus Trump. Trump sits frozen, mouth slightly open, as though trying to rewrite the past with a look. But the camera doesn't blink. It stays on him, unmerciful. The color drains from his face, replaced by a strange stillness. Not humility, but something close to recognition. For the first time, he realizes the noise isn't saving him. It's drowning him. The narrator's heartbeat rhythm grows louder. The tempo quickens. Thump, thump, thump. The voice threads through it. When lies collapse, they don't fall quietly. They drag everything built on them down too. The moderator looks like he's forgotten his role. The panelists are no longer analysts, they're witnesses. Even his closest supporters shift uncomfortably, eyes down, as though the truth might catch their reflection. Crockett closes her folder, slow and graceful. The single click of the clasp echoes louder than any applause. She looks directly at the camera, not for vanity, but clarity. For everyone watching, the truth doesn't need to trend, it just needs to be seen.
The feed cuts to reaction shots, reporters shaking their heads, viewers on live streams clutching their phones, comment threads flooding in faster than moderators can manage. Did she just say that? Rewind it. No way! Clips are clipped, memes already forming. The narrator's tone rises over the frenzy, guiding the storm. Every era has a reckoning. Every empire has a signature moment, sometimes quite literally. Trump leans back, muttering something inaudible, eyes darting to his aides just off camera. But no one moves, no one can. The spell of truth has rendered the room motionless. The empire of noise has gone silent. Crockett stands, not triumphant, not smug, just steady. The posture of someone who's lived through worse and still knows the value of restraint. She turns slightly toward the moderator, nods once, and leaves the table without another word. The cameras follow her walk, slow, measured, cinematic. The kind of walk that doesn't need music because the audience's pulse has already become the soundtrack. Outside the studio, the world is already reacting. Screens flicker in bedrooms, airports, and diners. Hashtags climb the charts like rockets. Commentators scramble to contextualize what they just witnessed. Late-night hosts rewrite monologues in real time. By sunrise, the internet has rewritten its own vocabulary. Receipts no longer mean screenshots or speculation. They mean that single sheet of paper, that single moment of truth, that single sentence delivered with surgical calm. You didn't just sign the lie, you lived it. The narrator's voice fades over a montage of glowing screens and headlines. History isn't loud, it's precise. It's the sound of 6 seconds of silence before everything changes. The explosion didn't happen in the studio, it happened online. Within minutes of the broadcast ending, the digital world caught fire. On Twitter, now X, the hashtags began to bloom like fireworks across the night sky. Hashtag Crockett clapped back. Hashtag Receipts Queen. Hashtag Truth signed by Trump. Each one pulsed with energy, a nation's collective exhale turned into data. Millions watched and rewatched the clip, each replay feeding a hunger that had gone unsatisfied for years, the hunger to see arrogance finally held to account. By midnight, the video had already crossed 10 million views. News alerts flashed on screens. Crockett exposes Trump with his own signature. Reaction edits flooded TikTok. Split screens of her calm face next to his unraveling expression, soundtracked with cinematic music and captions like, "She didn't raise her voice, she raised the standard." Cable networks broke format. CNN ran the full confrontation uninterrupted, letting the silence speak for itself. MSNBC called it the masterclass in restraint. Even Fox, hesitant at first, couldn't resist the ratings pull. Their Chiron tried to spin it. Crockett ambushes Trump with old paperwork, but the attempt felt thin, desperate.
By 1 a.m., the meme economy had already declared its victor. A still frame of Crockett sliding the document across the table went viral. Edited, captioned, remixed. Someone added flames behind her. Another layered the line, "You didn't just sign the lie, you lived it," in bold cinematic font. Within hours, it wasn't just a clip. It was a cultural artifact. Celebrities weighed in. Kerry Washington tweeted, "This is what composure looks like." Mark Ruffalo posted the clip with, "When truth walks in, noise walks out." Even Taylor Swift liked the fan post quoting Crockett's line. Overnight, Jasmine Crockett became a symbol, not just of resistance, but of precision. She wasn't loud, she was undeniable. And then came the think pieces. The Atlantic wrote, "In an age where outrage is currency, Crockett redefined power through restraint." The Washington Post ran a headline that read, "One page, one line, one reckoning." Even independent creators and podcasters, from political analysts to comedians, turned their lenses toward her, dissecting the 6-second silence that preceded her words. On Reddit, the top thread in Our Politics simply read, "She ended the debate without raising her tone. That's how you know it was real." The comment section became a public therapy session, people confessing how cathartic it felt to watch truth win without chaos. In living rooms across the country, families rewatched the clip together. Some laughed, some sat quietly, moved by something deeper, a reminder that dignity could still win airtime in a culture addicted to noise. Parents showed their kids the moment, saying, "That's how you fight back, not by shouting, but by standing your ground." Late-night hosts turned it into legend. Colbert replayed the moment in slow motion, calling it the calmest atomic bomb ever dropped in a debate. Seth Meyers joked, "Trump met his final boss, and she had the receipts." But between the laughter, there was respect. Everyone knew they'd just witnessed a cultural shift. Meanwhile, Trump's camp scrambled. Spokespeople issued statements claiming selective editing and context manipulation. But the internet had already fact-checked the spin. Side-by-side comparisons, metadata screenshots, original campaign archive links, everything verified Crockett's evidence as genuine. The noise machine sputtered. The narrator's voice glides through the digital montage like wind over burning headlines. When truth is documented, denial becomes performance, and every performance has an end. For Crockett, the fame wasn't the point. She gave no victory interviews that night, no triumphant posts. Her staff released a single statement: "Facts don't need fireworks." That restraint only amplified her legend. Commentators compared her to historical figures: Shirley Chisholm,
Barbara Jordan, women who made their words carry generations of weight. The next morning, the press caught her walking into Congress. She smiled at the reporters, waved briefly, and said, "Y'all have a blessed day." That clip alone garnered millions of views. It wasn't victory that people saw. It was poise under the glare of chaos, the kind of poise people crave in leaders. In classrooms, professors played the clip to teach debate tactics. In workplaces, it became water-cooler gospel. Even skeptics admitted the evidence was irrefutable. One conservative commentator wrote, "Disagree with her politics all you want, but that was surgical precision." Trump wasn't beaten by fury. He was beaten by facts. The ripple didn't stop there. Donations to civic education groups and fact-checking nonprofits spiked overnight. Hashtags turned into movements. Fans printed T-shirts with the line, "Truth doesn't shout." TikTok creators launched challenges to Crockett misinformation with calm debunking clips. A whole generation suddenly wanted to argue less and verify more. Every generation remembers one confrontation that resets the temperature of its democracy. This was that moment, the point where evidence became entertainment, and entertainment finally met its match. And yet, as the viral wave crested, another truth emerged, the quiet kind that lingers after applause. Because viral moments fade, but moral ones echo. The cameras had stopped rolling, but the energy lingered, vibrating in every frame, every clip that now circled the globe. Jasmine Crockett's voice filled the quiet spaces between the flashes, not in the studio, not on air, but in reflection, in interviews, in moments of private consideration she allowed the public to glimpse. "When power lies," she said softly, measured, each syllable deliberate, "it's not personal, it's habitual. The cure is truth, delivered without fear." Her words were neither boastful nor performative. They were an invocation, a reminder that integrity requires no audience, only intention. The narrator's voice sweeps over the footage of the aftermath, muted cell phones, blinking notifications, trending hashtags, and threads the moral through every digital echo. This wasn't a simple victory of one woman over one man. It was a culture's reckoning. For too long, society had been conditioned to equate volume with authority, spectacle with merit. It had applauded fury, rewarded chaos, elevated the loudest above the thoughtful. Crockett's victory reframed the conversation. Composure, patience, and evidence became not just virtues, but strategies, tools to restore the balance lost in a landscape dominated by noise. Across social media, journalists noted the irony. The loudest figure had been undone not by yelling back, not by retort, but by calm, deliberate truth. Late-night commentators shifted their scripts. Educators clipped her words into civics lessons. The moral rippled outward, beyond politics, beyond the immediate moment of viral fame. It reached the people who had grown tired of the constant performative outrage, those craving clarity, reason, and accountability in a world that seemed to reward neither. The camera lingers on Crockett walking through Congress the next day, papers in hand, face serene, posture unwavering. She doesn't glance at the headlines. She doesn't read the trending lists. Her purpose, her power, lies in the principle that truth requires neither applause nor defense. She moves forward as if she has always known that justice is less a spectacle and more a measured cadence, a rhythm that demands attention through its inevitability, rather than its volume. The narrator expands the lens. Consider the lesson embedded in every micro-expression captured that night, in every blink, every pause, every careful slide of a single piece of paper. Power, unchecked, assumes compliance, but when truth is wielded calmly, it becomes unstoppable. It pierces the armor of arrogance and exposes the foundations of pretense. And when the noise of manipulation mates the silence of disciplined integrity, it is the silence that resonates, long after the microphone is turned off, long after the cameras are packed away. Jasmine Crockett herself reflects on the philosophy behind the action. The calm before justice isn't weakness, she says, voice low and firm, almost reverent. It's discipline. It's the preparation to let evidence, reason, and conviction speak louder than anyone ever could with anger or theatrics. Her reflection carries a resonance deeper than politics. It speaks to anyone who has ever faced intimidation, misinformation, or overwhelming opposition. It reminds them that restraint is a kind of courage, that silence can be more cutting than the loudest accusation, and that composure, when paired with truth, commands attention. Across the nation, viewers nod, replay, and absorb. In offices, classrooms, and homes, her example becomes a mirror. How would you act when confronted by bluster masquerading as authority? When would you choose calm over reaction, discipline over impulse? The viral clip fades in and out, but its moral imprint remains, guiding conversations, influencing arguments, and redefining what it means to confront power. The narrator's tone softens, almost intimate, like a teacher addressing a student for the first time. Courage isn't the act of shouting louder than the crowd. It's the act of standing still while the storm rages, the act of letting truth find its path without forcing it. Power may attempt to rewrite history with noise, but the truth delivered without fear persists, echoing in every conscience willing to listen. And finally, the focus returns to the viewer, bridging the moment to action. The moral, once abstract, becomes immediate and personal. The narrator intones, "The storm has passed for now, but the work remains." Composure, clarity, courage, they aren't gifts only for the brave on screen. They are available to everyone willing to practice them, willing to let reason and principle shape their response to chaos. And now, it's your turn to carry that echo forward. If this moment made you feel something, that's not anger, it's clarity. You witnessed a confrontation where arrogance met evidence, where noise collided with truth, and where composure won the day. You didn't just watch a debate, you watched a lesson in accountability unfold in real time. That clarity isn't just for you to feel, it's for you to act on. Wherever you're watching from right now, take a moment to reflect. Comment below. Let the world know you are present. Every perspective matters. Every voice contributes to the reckoning. Share this video. Send it to a friend. Post it on your social media. Because every share, every view is a refusal to let noise drown out reason. It's a stand for evidence, for integrity, for the power of calm truth in a world addicted to spectacle. And remember, this isn't just about one viral moment. It's about a movement, a call to prioritize evidence over ego, patience over provocation, and principle over performance. When you engage, you're part of that movement. You're ensuring that the lessons from this confrontation resonate far beyond the studio, far beyond the trending clips. You're helping truth find its way into every conversation that matters. The screen fades. Crockett walks away from the table, her stride measured, unwavering. The camera lingers on the echo of her heels against the silence, an echo heavier than applause, louder than words, and impossible to ignore. The lesson remains. The echo is yours now to carry forward,